Further in our series of lessons on IELTS Speaking, we're going to today have a lesson more about part 2, the difficult part. And today we're going to be talking about describing people. Many IELTS questions, especially in part 2, focus very much on people and their attributes and their characteristics. So therefore, this is a very good lesson to pay a lot of attention to, because we are going to learn a lot of new vocabulary and learn how to use it in not such a difficult way. Because so many questions in IELTS Part 2 revolve around people, this is one lesson to which you really need to pay a lot of attention. You might want to replay this question a few times. There's a lot of stops and starts in this lesson, so although the video recording will go for approximately 30 minutes, there's probably up to 90 minutes of work for you. Depends how quickly you work, I guess, and how quickly you absorb it. So, talking about people is very, very important. Remember about IELTS Part 2? That's the part where the examiner gives you a card. It's got a number of questions on it, and you're given a piece of paper and a pen or a pencil and told you have 1 minute to prepare your answer, and then you have up to 2 minutes to talk. Okay. So, let's go along. Let's see what we're going to do here in this lesson. The aims of this lesson are to review of the building vocabulary used in our vocabulary books, things to add to it, recognizing good and bad aspects of personality and people's appearance or their looks, talking about personal characteristics, and sorting some common character traits into qualities or good things and flaws or bad aspects, recognizing opposites in character traits, talking about character traits necessary for certain occupations or jobs, and practicing some Part 2 speaking questions concerning people. Practice, practice, practice makes perfect. So even though you might be not watching this video at the time, you need to practice a lot. You need to sit there with a stopwatch and time yourself talking for up to 2 minutes. Are you getting all the points in? Practice 1 minute planning your answer. Okay. So because talking about people is a huge part of the IELTS exam, your vocabulary book needs to be working very well for this part. Have a look at this. We can see here a few words that we've put here. Now, I'm not suggesting that you need to know these particular words, but these are all words about characteristics, traits, or personalities, or appearances. So in our vocabulary book, we need to be looking for the noun, the verb, the adjective, the adverb, the opposite, the same, and a column for notes, perhaps like how we could use it in a sentence. So here I've put some. Remember that not all words will have all of these things. For example, when we see this one here, handsome, there is probably no verb for it, so some parts of our book will be blank. What I suggest you do now is pause this video and do your best to fill in the gaps or put lines through it where there isn't a corresponding part of speech for that word. Some of it's been done, but in some cases you see here I've just put one word into the relevant column, and it's up to you to continue with it. You will see other words in this as we go through this lesson that you might want to add to this. And that's okay. Whoops. And that's okay. So do that. This will take you a little bit of time, and you will be looking at both a dictionary and probably a thesaurus. Remember, there's a thesaurus in Word program, Microsoft Word, that you can use. All right. Let's assume that you've stopped the video. You fill this up as best you can. So let's move on. I'm not going to give you the answers. I'm sure you know what to do with that. Here are some things about people, and we have to decide, are they good things or are they bad things? Positive or negative? Let's have a look. How about arrogant? I'm better than you. Is arrogant good or bad? I'm sure you can decide on that. What about boring? A boring person. A boring person is somebody that doesn't interest us. Maybe they've got habits that are just not of any interest to us. So is boring good or bad? What about clever? So do you think a clever person, is that a good thing? Or is being clever a bad thing? Right. Don't forget, some of these words you can put into your vocabulary book. Funny. If someone is funny and they make us laugh, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Don't worry, some of these things could be both, depending on the circumstances, couldn't they? What about generous? Oh, the lady was very generous to me. She gave me $10. And I normally only expect $2 for playing my guitar on the street. The lady gave me $10. She was very generous. Good thing or a bad thing? What about loyal? You might have to look some of these words up in your dictionary. Loyal. Is that good or is it bad? Moody. Is that good or bad? If somebody's moody. Happy one moment, next moment cranky. What about if someone is outgoing? Is it good or bad? How about if someone is pessimistic? I don't care. It doesn't matter. Is that good or bad? What about punctual? Punctual person is a person who arrives or does something right on time. Not 1 minute late, not 1 minute early. Exactly at the correct time. Is that good or bad? Punctual. Reserved. We could probably say, as well as reserved, another word for reserved is shy. Shy. Is that good or bad? What about rude? Another word for rude is impolite. Or even aggressive. Good or bad? What about stupid? If someone is stupid, is that good or bad? I think we know the answer to that. What about if we're tolerant? That is, other people's habits don't really bother us much. Is that good or bad to be tolerant? Alright, let's have a look at these adjectives here. And you can stop the video and put them into their correct categories. You see here we have a whole lot of words just up here. And you have to decide whether these are qualities or good things about people, or they are flaws. F-L-A-W-S. Flaws are things that are not good. So stop the video, pause it, have a look at these words and decide where these words should go. Are they qualities or flaws? Okay, so you're back after doing that exercise. What about arrogant? Arrogant is probably a flaw. Boring. That's probably a flaw. Clever is probably a quality. Funny is a quality. Generous, I would say that's a quality. Loyal, that would have to be a quality. Moody, that would have to be a flaw. Outgoing, I think that's a quality. Pessimistic, it's probably a flaw. Punctual, that's a quality. Reserved, well, that could be a quality. It could also be a flaw, couldn't it? Depending. Rude, I think generally rude would be a flaw. Stupid is definitely a flaw. Tolerant is probably a quality. So how did you do with that? There might be different opinions on some of these things. That's okay, it doesn't really matter. Okay, now we've got a lot of vocabulary now. We've learnt some vocabulary. And let's do this little exercise. Think about a friend or an acquaintance. It doesn't need to be a friend, it could just be somebody you know. And can you describe some of these people using some of the vocabulary we just learned? Think about it. Think about somebody you know, and think of a few sentences to describe those people. Think of about 3 or 4 different people. One person you like, one person one person you don't like, and maybe a celebrity, famous person. When you've done that, stop the video, and when you've done that, come back. We'll have a look. Let's do some more vocabulary building now that we're back. We sometimes have to think about, we've been talking about qualities and flaws, positives and negative aspects of people. Let's match the adjectives on the left, down this side, with their opposites on the right. Okay, stop the video, do that, and come back. Alright, you're back. So let's see how you did. What did you say was the opposite of the first one? Generous. Let's see. So, if you said mean, you're correct. What about relaxed? What's the opposite of relaxed? He was a very relaxed sort of a person. And the other one is tense. Tense. Same as the English word for telling us about when something happens. Funny, isn't it? English is crazy. You know that. What about the opposite of shy? If we're not shy, we're probably confident. I know I can do it. Yes. What about tough? Tough means sort of difficult, doesn't it? Tough or soft? Right. Strong and weak. Cheerful. Miserable. And of course, thoughtful and selfish. How did you do? I hope you did very well. This is building your vocabulary very well. You are doing great. Think about these people and think about what sort of characteristics or traits each of these people should have. A teacher, a policeman, a good friend, a businessman, a waiter, a husband or a wife, and a politician. Just think about one or two adjectives to describe each of these. Stop the video, think about this, get an answer, and come back. You can stop the video now. Okay, so now you're back. What are some character features that a teacher should have? What did you say? We could probably say a teacher needs to be knowledgeable. A teacher needs to have patience. A teacher needs to have a good memory. A teacher needs to be friendly. Well, there's probably other things that a teacher needs to do too, but those are some of them. How about a policeman? Perhaps a policeman needs to be brave sometimes. Maybe a policeman also needs to be tolerant. Sometimes a policeman needs to be flexible in his attitude to things. What about a good friend? Well, a good friend should be loyal, friendly, dependable, happy. How about a businessman? A businessman should be analytical, able to analyze things very well. He should maybe be dedicated to his work. What about a waiter? A waiter needs to be friendly, efficient, able to listen to people well. A husband or a wife? Well, you can decide that yourself. A politician? A politician needs to be honest. Unfortunately, that's not always the case, is it? Many other aspects these people could need. I have just thought of a few, that's all. Okay, now we're going to move on to answering a couple of questions in the way that part 2 of the IELTS exam needs. Don't forget to use mind maps to plan our answers, and don't forget to time yourself on how long it takes you to prepare, 1 minute, how long it takes you to talk, and in your talk, do you cover every aspect? Okay, let's have a look at one. So remember, what do we do first? We analyze the question very quickly. Describe a friend, you should say. So basically, it's going to be present tense. How you first met? Well, that's going to be past tense. How long you have been friends? Present tense. What you like doing together? Present tense. Say why you like this person? Present tense. So we know now what tenses we're going to use. How many parts are we going to use in this essay? Well, we're going to have an opening, right? We're going to restate the question. Now, we're also going to we're going to say who the friend is, of course. How you first met. That's another part. How long you have been friends. What you like doing together. Why I like this person. And of course, we're going to make a conclusion. 5, 6, 7 parts to answer this question correctly. Pause the video here, make your answer. Remember, mind map, 1 minute, talk for 2 minutes, and then come back. Okay, let's have a look at another question about this. You know what to do now, so I won't go into a long, lengthy explanation. Analyze. Tense. How many parts are there? What do I have to talk about? Describe someone who has had an important influence on your life. You should say who this person is, how long you have known him or her, what are his or her qualities, and explain why this person has had such an influence on you. Be careful, there are mixed tenses in this. Stop the video, prepare your answer. When you're happy with your answer, come back. Okay, so you're back. Now, I know the subject, the topics here seem to be pretty much the same, but practice, practice, practice makes perfect. Describe a person in your family who you admire. You should say, what is your relationship to this person? What this person does? What are his or her qualities? And say why you admire this person. Analyze. Tenses. How many parts? Mind map for 1 minute. Talk for 2 minutes following your mind map. When you've done that, come back. Another one. Describe a person that you see often, very often. You should say what your relationship to this person is, what this person does, how often you see this person, and explain whether you like or dislike this person. Yes, it seems almost like the last one, but it's slightly different, and it will give you a lot more practice in using this vocabulary. Stop the video, make your answer. You know what to do now. Okay, so that's the end of this lesson. It's a very important lesson on how to use effective vocabulary when talking about people. And it's very common in IELTS to, especially in part 2, to need to talk about a person, either from the past, a famous person, or somebody you know, or somebody you might like to meet, and so on like that. So it covers all tenses, and if you decide to make yourself a vocabulary of positives and negatives, you don't need to use too many. Remember that the examiner is only with you for this part, for part 2, this only takes 3 minutes. So if you don't have a lot of vocabulary to talk about positive and negative aspects of people, it's okay, so long as you are confident in the words that you use and you can use them well. Our next lesson, we're going to be talking about TV shows, also another reasonably popular topic in the IELTS speaking exam. So, if you want to rewind this video and try these exercises again, feel free to do that. Now, just before we go, let's have a little bit about pronunciation. We've not done much on pronunciation, but reasonable pronunciation is going to help you. Generally, IELTS examiners are not going to worry too much about perfect pronunciation. They are well aware that your pronunciation will be affected by your native language. But your pronunciation still needs to be understandable. So practice these. Listen, stop the video, practice them. I eat eel while you peel eel. You don't have to say it quickly. You just need to say these things carefully. I eat eel while you peel eel. Theo thought 3 thrilling thoughts. This has got that terrible TH that we find in English and in not many other languages. Theo thought 3 thrilling thoughts. And here it is again. There are 333,000 feathers on that thrush's throat. There are 333,000 feathers on that thrush's throat. Practice them until they sound pretty much like what I said. Remember, you don't need to say them quickly, just accurately. So did we achieve our goals in today's lesson? Did we review building vocabulary using our vocabulary book? Yes, we did. Did we practice recognizing good and bad aspects of personality and looks? Yeah. Did we practice talking about personal characteristics? You know, when we said, what sort of characteristics does a policeman need, a teacher need, a wife, a husband? Yeah, we did. Did we sort some common character traits into qualities and flaws? That is, good things and bad things? Yes, we did. Did we recognize opposites in character traits? Yes, we did do a matching exercise on that. Did we talk about character traits that might be necessary for certain occupations or jobs? Yes. And did we do some practice about Part 2 speaking concerning people? Yes, we did. Good job. We've done well. Just before we go, a little quiz. In Part 2, I must pay attention to answering in the same tense as the question is asked, compliment the examiner on his or her clothing, offer the examiner some money to be sure I'll get a good score. Which do you think is the correct answer? It's pretty obvious, isn't it? Answering in the same tense as the question is asked. Remember when I said we have to analyze the question? The first part is, what tenses do I need to use? Talking about people in IELTS is impolite, a very likely topic, or a very unpopular topic. What did we say before? Probably up to 80% of questions asked in Part 2 of IELTS is about people. So, the answer is number 2, a very likely topic. The other very popular IELTS topic is what? Places, politics, or religion? Well, we've already talked about that politics, religion, and sex are not going to be in the questions. So therefore it has to be places. So we do need to develop a vocabulary about places, and we will have a special lesson on that shortly. For other parts of the IELTS exam, here are some questions you should think about. Part 1 and Part 3 primarily. Can you get yourself some pretty clever answers to these questions? For children, what age do you think is suitable to allow them to use cell phones? Don't forget to add why you think that. Is it popular for children to use cell phones in your country? Don't forget to add an example for example, in my university almost every student has a cell phone. And in primary school, probably half the children have one. What do teenagers in your country use cell phones for? What are the advantages and disadvantages of using cell phones? Why are many people addicted to apps? Okay, if you can talk about these things quite fluently, you will do well in parts 1 and 3. Now that you're starting to learn how to do part 2 as well, you're building a very, very strong case for a good score. You could probably think about this as a parting gift. Describe someone you know who enjoys outdoor activities. You should say who the person is, what outdoor activities he or she does, how often she does this outdoor activity, explain why you think she enjoys it. Note the tense, present tense. Your answers generally need to be in the same tense that the question uses. So that's the end of this lesson. I will see you in the next lesson. So far, so good. We're doing well. We're doing rather well, aren't we? We're up to lesson number 7 out of the 20 lessons that we've signed up for in this course. So we're progressing rather well. Today we're going to be talking about a TV show. This is also one of the topics that comes up reasonably frequently in part 2 of the IELTS exam, but it sometimes also comes to our attention in parts 1 and 3. So knowing a bit about how to talk about television programs is going to be important to us. Lots of work in here too for our vocabulary book that we can add to. Remember, just find the words that we like to use and that we're comfortable with. Don't go for a huge, massive vocabulary that's going to only confuse you and the examiner. So, television. The aims of this lesson are these. We're going to learn some vocabulary related to the topic of TV programs. We're going to practice using some of the vocabulary in some matching exercises. We're going to practice using the topic to answer part 2 style questions. And we're going to use some discussion time to increase our fluency. So, ready? 3, 2, 1, blast off. So how many different types of TV shows can you think of? And can you continue the list below? A game show, for example. Well, we can see that one there. It's a game show. It's got a number of people and they're all answering various questions. A soap opera. Isn't that a strange thing to talk about, a soap opera? It means long-running stories about people's everyday lives. The reason they were called soap operas in English is because they were normally financed by soap companies, telling ladies who like to watch them that if you use our brand of soap, you will be beautiful like the actresses in our drama. Soap opera. So that one would have to be a soap opera. A sports show. Well, we can't see a sports show here, but that would be about things about football, baseball, etc. A drama serial. Drama. They're exciting and a little bit serious. Serial means programs that go from one to the next. The story continues. They're not separate stories. And a reality show. Well, of course, The Simpsons is not a reality show. Hey, perhaps this one is a sports show. Look, we can see three people very excited, maybe watching football, and maybe that lady doesn't like football, but she's putting up with it. Okay, she's tolerating it, I should say. All right, so what do these people do in a TV program? Who are they and what do they do? A contestant, a host, the cast, a newsreader, an interviewer, and a guest. Over this side we see what these people do, but they're all mixed up. Asks questions on TV. Is invited to appear in a TV show. Play the roles in a TV series. Presents a TV show. Reads the news on TV. Takes part in a TV show contest or competition. So what we should do now, we have to match the left-hand side, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, with the other half of the sentences A, B, C, D, E, and F. So I suggest now you're getting used to this idea of stopping or pausing the video, doing the exercise, and coming back. Okay, so please pause the video now and come back when you've done that. Okay, so now that you're back, let's see how we did. What matches with a contestant? Well, a contestant takes part in the TV show contest or competition. We get the hint from contest, test, contest, and in English, sometimes the ending of a word tells us a person who. There's a few other words in English, a few other endings for words in English that tell us a person who does something. What about a host? A host is normally like the person who has the party at home, for example, looks after the guests. So what could it be in a TV program? A host presents a TV show. Yes. The cast. English is a strange language. Cast has a number of meanings. It means to throw something as a verb. And it also means a plaster which we put on a broken leg. But in this case, it means something completely different. The cast, the cast are the people who play the roles or the parts in a TV series. In other words, the actors and the actresses. A newsreader, well, this one's pretty easy, isn't it? C-E-R, a person who reads the news. So that's made that pretty easy. A newsreader is the person who reads the news on TV. An interviewer, E-R, a person who interviews. Okay, so that's going to make it easy. An interviewer interviews people. So what does an interviewer do? Asks questions. So an interviewer asks questions on TV. Could be on the radio, of course. Could be another situation, but in this case, we want to know about TV. Now, there's only one left, so we can't get this one wrong, can we? A guest. Same idea as if we have a guest at home. We invite somebody to come to our home. That person is our guest. So in TV, a guest is invited to appear on a TV show. In this case, appear means to be there. Yeah. It doesn't mean like magic. Just appeared. No. Good. So now describing a show, we have to get used to the idea of using the vocabulary that goes with TV. Just like we did in the last exercise, we have to match the two halves of the sentence to form descriptions about a TV show. And of course we've got 5 subjects here, and down here we've got 5 parts of sentences that go after the subject of the sentence. So we've got a lot of options here. So now is the time to once again pause the video, do the exercise to the best of your ability, come back, and let's have a look. See how we did. Pause the video. Okay, so now that you're back, what do you think about these? The show is broadcast. Broadcast means it's sent out. The show is broadcast. The first one, interesting, etc. No, none of those work because it doesn't make sense. The show is broadcast or sent out once a week, every day. That makes sense. Do any of the others make sense? No. So, it has to be the show is broadcast once a week. Or the show is broadcast every day. Or the show is broadcast twice a month. Right. Did you get it right? Good. The show is about, well, what could it be? We have to think of the grammatical construction here sometimes, gives us the clue as to what the answer could be. The show is about travel. The show is about current affairs. That means things which are happening in the world right now, sort of like a synopsis or an analysis of the news. Or the show is about life in New York City. Okay. The show features, or the show emphasizes, or shows off, what? Okay. The show features, some celebrities. Celebrities means famous people. Special guests. Or the show features ordinary people. I find it. Sometimes we use this expression in English. I find something means I think a certain thing. It doesn't mean it was lost and I find it. English has got some pretty strange expressions, hasn't it? So I find it, well, that will be followed by an adjective. I find it interesting. I find it original. I think it's very informative. In my opinion, it's really funny. To my way of thinking, it's very relaxing. I find it exciting. I understand it's full of suspense. I believe it's very dull. The last one. The show helps me... what? So, if it's going to help me do something, we're going to be looking for verb. The show helps me relax. The show helps me fall asleep. The show helps me get up in the morning. The show helps me improve my general knowledge. The show helps me, well, we've said that, improve my general knowledge. Okay. How did you do? Did you get them right? More importantly, do you know how to use some of these expressions? Remember, you don't need them all. So we're going to go on to now questions about TV shows in part 2 of the IELTS speaking test. We should be now getting into the habit very much of making our mind map of number 1, analysing the question. What is the tense? How many parts do I have to address? And making the mind map and putting in there maybe leading words that we don't want to forget to use. Prepare for 1 minute and talk for between 1 to 2 minutes. Now your examiner will probably tell you to talk between 1 to 2 minutes. If you talk for 1 minute and a few seconds, your score will be low. If you talk for close to 2 minutes, your score will be higher because it gives you the opportunity to show a good range of vocabulary and sentence and grammatical structure, which is what the examiner is looking for. So practice, 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 taking up to 2 minutes to cover all the points in your mind map. All right, here we go. Describe a TV show that you watch. You should describe what type of program it is, what it is about, how often it is on, and say what you think about it. Don't forget analysis. What tense will you use? The question is in the present tense. Every part of the question is in the present tense, so you need to answer in the present tense. How many parts are there to this? Well, we know, number one, we need to restate the question as an introduction. Number two, we better talk about the show, what its name is, what type of program it is. Is it a documentary? Is it a drama? Is it a comedy? What is it about? Oh, it's about 3 men who go fishing and one gets eaten by a shark. How often it is on? Oh, it's broadcast twice a week. Say what you think about it. I like this program because it makes me laugh. And then, of course, a conclusion. So there are 7 things to put in your mind map and plan. Good. So now you can pause the video, try this exercise, and come back. Good. You're back. Did you talk about 7 things? Did you talk in the present tense? Good. And another. Describe a serious TV program or documentary that you saw. You should say what type of program it was, what it was about, why you watched it, and what you learned from it. Notice here, serious. In our analysis, we have to think also, what is the tense? Saw. Past tense. So this is a TV program that we saw in the past. It's a documentary or serious TV program. Documentary means it tells us a little bit about history or something that happens with nature. So here we have it. We know what to do now. We know how to plan this. We know how to analyze it. We know how to find out how many things we have to talk about, and we will have 1 minute to prepare our mind map and 2 minutes in which to talk. By the way, when the examiner says you may speak now, begin immediately. Do not waste time. Okay, and when he says you may prepare now, start preparing immediately. Pause the video. Take about 1 minute to make a mind map about this. Then talk about it for up to 2 minutes. Have the clock running. Practice makes perfect. Okay, so now you're back. I know you did well because you followed the plan. Here's another one. I know these seem to be pretty boring, but IELTS is not exactly what we would call an exciting exam, is it? It's boring. Yes, it is. It's boring. So, here we go again. Same sort of topic. Practice, practice, practice makes perfect. Talk about a film or TV program which made you laugh a lot. You should say what it was, when you saw it, who the characters were, and say what made you laugh a lot. Analysis. Tense. How many parts do I have to talk about? Planning. Mind map. Okay. You can spend 1 minute planning and up to 2 minutes talking. Pause the video, do that, and come back. Okay, so now you're back. How many things did you talk about? Did you talk about it in the past tense? Made, was, saw, were, made. So it all has to be in the past tense. Right. Well done. We're getting the idea about that. So this lesson's been a little bit shorter than some of the others, but there's been a fair bit of work to do in it. Our next lesson is going to focus primarily also on part 2 of the IELTS speaking exam, and it's going to be about movies and films. Now that means it's going to be somewhat similar to the lesson we've had today on television and television programs, so a lot of the vocabulary is going to be the same. So I hope by now your vocabulary book is building into quite a massive volume. Don't forget, you don't need to use all of the vocabulary that you come across. You just need to find the vocabulary that you're comfortable with and that you can use confidently. There's no point in having huge, complex structures that nobody understands. Even though IELTS is rather a formal type exam, it doesn't mean that the language needs to be very formal. It can't be street talk, but it doesn't necessarily need to be very high-level language. To be honest, most native English speakers do not use high-level language at all, especially in speaking. They do sometimes in writing, if that helps to make the situation clear. But in speaking, normal, everyday language is better. All right, so let's have a look now. How did we go with this lesson? Did we cover the aims that we started out with? Did we learn some vocabulary related to the topic of TV programs? Well, I think we did. Did we practice using some of the vocabulary in some matching exercises? Yes, we did. Did we practice using the topic to answer part 2 style questions? If you paused the video and did like I suggested, absolutely you did plenty of that. And did we use some discussion time to increase our fluency? Somewhat. So I think we covered everything that we wanted to do in this lesson. As we have a little bit of time, let's do a little bit on pronunciation. Now, this is a pretty difficult thing to say, and most native English speakers cannot say it. Remember, when we're practicing our pronunciation, there's not much point in saying it very quickly. It's better that we say it correctly. So follow me, and I will leave little pauses at parts so that you can say what I say. You can repeat. Then we will say it more fluently, and you can say the lot. Ready? Betty Botta bought some butter. But she said, the butter's bitter. If I put it in my batter, it will make my batter bitter. But a bit of better butter will make my batter better. So 'twas better Betty Botter bought a bit of better butter. Not easy, is it? Okay, let's try it with some fluency, right? Bit difficult to follow me, but okay, this is how it's said, and you can stop the video and try it. Betty Botter bought some butter, but she said the butter's bitter. If I put it in my batter, it will make my batter bitter. But a bit of better butter will make my batter better. So 'twas better Betty Botter bought a bit of better butter. Okay, stop the video and give it a try. Remember, it doesn't need to be particularly fast, just correct. Okay, if you can say that, you're doing better than Betty Botter, who is a native English speaker, because she can't say this, I'm sure. Okay, let's move on a little bit just before we go. Some discussion type questions. Now these can come in part 1, part 2, or part 3 of IELTS, and it's really good to know how to answer these type of questions. Remember, no more baby English. Bye-bye, baby English. We now have sophisticated English. Think about these and see if you can make some pretty good answers. Actors should be paid more. Yes or no? Remember, when you answer, don't say yes or no. Just say, so you're asking me if actors should be paid more. Well, to my way of thinking, actors should not necessarily be paid more than a lot of other occupations, because what do they really do that is productive to society? Okay. What influences do actors or actresses have on young people? Are there many people in your country who want to work as an actor? Who are more popular, TV stars or movie stars? Are famous people always happy? What makes a person famous? Okay, stop the video. Try to answer these questions. Make sure to use sophisticated English with connectors and complex sentences, but not really difficult vocabulary. All right. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Here's a little quiz just before we go. Which of these could be classed as a topic TV show? A sports broadcast on the radio, a game show, a play at the theatre? Look at the question. Which of these could be classed as a topic TV show? A sports broadcast on the radio? No, definitely not, because it's not according to the question. A game show? Yes, that could be on TV. A play at the theatre? No, that's not on TV. You have to be careful of the tricks that IELTS examiners might put into their questions. When the examiner asks me to talk about a TV show, I should say I will talk about a football game instead. I should talk about my last holiday. Or I should say what I can about a movie, game show, or something else I saw on TV. I think it's pretty obvious which one, isn't it? In IELTS Speaking, to score 9 is very common, very unlikely, or not as good as 10. What do you think? Let's have a look. Native English speakers who have not been trained in IELTS are very unlikely to score above 7.5. So, a score of 9 is not very common. Not as good as 10. There is no score 10 in IELTS. The maximum is 9, so that's wrong. But to score 9 in IELTS is very unlikely. Yes. Hey, I have had students who have scored 9, but they are not the usual. So don't expect to score 9. But if you can get 7.5, you're doing rather well, and that will open a lot of doors for you. Okay, that's the end of lesson number 7. I will see you in lesson number 8. You are doing very well. Good job. How about that, IELTS friends? We're already up to lesson 8. 8 out of 20 in our IELTS speaking course. We're almost halfway. So hang in there. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more to do, and you're going to enjoy this, I hope. Today, we're going to be focusing pretty much on part 2 IELTS again. Yes, it gets a bit boring, but practice, practice, practice makes perfect. The topic today is going to be focusing pretty much on movies and films. So we'll be building our vocabulary book, and we will be practicing some structures to make sure that we can talk confidently when we get questions in part 2 of the IELTS speaking test about movies and films. A lot of the vocabulary, of course, will be similar to the previous lesson, which was on TV shows. Alright, let's move along. So what do we hope to achieve in this lesson? We're going to discover different types of films. We're going to build vocabulary using our vocabulary book, talking about opinions on different film types. Remember our lesson on giving opinions? We'll do some part 2 style exercises to practice the skills that we're learning in this lesson, and to, of course, we're going to recycle some of the skills we have learned in previous lessons. We're also going to discuss some part 3 style questions to help improve our fluency. This will be helpful in part 1 and part 3, and also in part 2 of the exam. Okay, ready? Let's go. Here's a little warm-up. We can see here a lot of posters or advertisements for films or movies. It depends whether you're speaking North American English or whether you're speaking British English. British tend to talk about films, Americans tend to talk about movies, but these two terms are quite interchangeable. An American will know what you're talking about when you talk about a film. A British speaker will know what you're talking about when you talk about a movie. So here we see some, and we also see some terms. A horror film, a crime story, a thriller, a historical film, a comedy, and an animated film. Okay, so what would you think a horror film is about? Yes, it's about something that's really scary. A crime story is about some criminals doing bad things. And a thriller will be about something that builds our suspense. A historical film will be about a famous person or an event which probably really happened. And a comedy is designed to make us laugh, and an animated film is where there are no real actors. They're all cartoon characters or computer-generated characters. So out of the posters we see down here, and these words, which ones hook up? What do you think? Let's see if we can find a horror film. Yes, I think so. Look at that terribly ugly man. He looks very scary. I don't want to be bitten by him. I don't want to wake up in the middle of the night and see him standing beside my bed. So it's a horror film. Makes our heart rate and we get scared, right? A crime story about some people doing naughty things. So it will be that one. That guy's got a gun, or what looks like a gun anyway, and he's holding up this other person, right? A thriller. It's very suspenseful. We know something's going to happen and we're waiting for it. A historical film. Well, in this case, this one is about Lincoln. He was president of the United States, so it will be something to do with his life and what he achieved. So that will be a historical film. A comedy? Well, this sort of looks like it might be something that's designed to make us laugh. And an animated film is the only one left. One of the most famous ones lately has been Frozen. There are no real characters in it. They are all computer-generated characters. So they're not real. Okay, so now we know what types of films are the most popular. We can carry on with our lesson. So, giving an opinion about a film. Remember our lesson about opinions? And here are some things. We have to match the two parts of the sentences to form opinions about a film. Of course, if we're going to give our opinion about a film, we're going to generally be talking in adjectives. So, what I want you to do now is, after we've had a bit of a chat about this, I want you to stop the video and see if you can match up the parts of the sentences. I found the film does not mean it was lost. It means I think about this film. It made me, well, it's going to make you do something. So in that case, it's going to be a verb. It made me do something. The acting was, of course, that's now going to be an adjective. The scenery was, well, it'll be an adjective. The special effects, that is, the things that look like they happen, but don't really, things like explosions and cars crashing. The lines, meaning the script, how the script was written. Okay, so for now, just pause the video and see if you can do this exercise and come back after that. Pause the video now. Okay, so now you're back. What could we say? I found the film, meaning I think the film was. What do you think? I found the film brilliant. Superb. I found the film very average. I found the film poor. I found the film terrible. It made me, well, it's going to be a verb, isn't it? Where are some verbs here? It made me cry. Ooh. It made me laugh. It made me feel sick. Ooh. It made me fall asleep because it was so boring, I guess. The acting was, of course, this is going to be an adjective talking about how the actors actually worked. The actors' acting was Yes, so it made me cry, made me laugh, it made me feel sick, or it made me fall asleep. The scenery was, so let's think about what we might say about scenery that we might see. The scenery was, let's see, what do we think? The scenery was the acting, how the acting was, sorry. The acting was very enjoyable. The acting was full of action. The action was very moving. It created a reaction in me. The acting was a bit boring. The acting was too slow. Of course, there are other things that we could say about all of this. The scenery. How would we talk about scenery? Think about if we're going and looking at a tourist place. What are we going to say about it? Similar sort of adjectives. The scenery was amazing. The scenery was attractive. The scenery was full of colour. Well, the scenery was dull. Dull is the same as boring. The special effects were out of this world. Fantastic. The special effects were fantastic. The special effects were very modern. The special effects were badly done. Or the special effects were overdone, meaning there was too many of them to be believable. The lines, that is, what the actors had to say. The lines were clever. The lines were funny. The lines were witty, is another way of saying they were funny. The lines were predictable, meaning it was very easy to know what they were going to say next. The lines were unoriginal. In other words, we've heard this type of thing before. Right. Now we're going to talk about part 2 of the test now. We're going to practice some of it. Don't forget, you have 1 minute to prepare, 2 minutes to talk. Don't forget to make a mind map, and don't forget to cover everything. And just going back a little bit on this lesson, don't forget any vocabulary that you saw that you didn't know about before and you think might be helpful for you in the future. Don't forget to put it in your vocabulary book. We know how to do that now. Okay, so moving on to part 2, answering the question. Mind map, preparation time 1 minute, 2 minutes to talk. Make sure we cover every aspect of the question. Here we go, the first one. Describe a film or movie that you've seen recently. You should say what type of film it is, what it is about, where you saw it, and say what you thought about it. Analyze. What do we have to do when we analyze? What tense? You have seen recently. So it's in the past. We have to use past tense to talk about it. How many parts do we have to put into our talk? 1. We have to say what the name of the film was, of course. Number 2. What type of film was it? Was it a comedy? Was it a horror? Was it a drama? What was it about? The storyline. Where you saw it. I saw it at home on TV. I saw it on Netflix. I saw it at the cinema. Say what you thought about it. I thought this movie was wonderful. The acting was superb. The scenery was out of this world. And a closing statement. So there are 6 things that you absolutely must talk about in this lesson, in this question, to get a good score. So, pause the video, make your mind map, make sure you cover all the points, set your stopwatch and start talking. See if you can put it all into 2 minutes. Okay, stop the video now, try it. Okay, and now you're back. Did you restate the question? Did you talk about what sort of a film it was? Did you say what the plot was, what it was all about? Did you say where you saw it? Did you say what you thought about it? And did you close with a closing statement? If you did, it's very likely that you will score well. Did you use past tense? Did you manage to make your mind map within 1 minute? Did you talk for almost or up to 2 minutes? If you did, you'll score well. Next one. Describe a film that you enjoyed. You should say what type of film it is, what it is about, when you saw it, and say why you liked it. Now this question seems to be very much like the first one, doesn't it? However, analyze the question. Tense. Describe a film that you enjoyed. Past tense. What type of film it is. Present tense. What it is about. Present tense. When you saw it. Past tense. Why you liked it. Past tense. This is a little more complex, and you can be sure that the examiner is listening intently for you to make mistakes with the tenses. This is a bit tricky, this one. Okay, so what do we have to do? Mind map, 1 minute, talk 2 minutes. Remember the tenses. So, continue with our analysis. What do we have to do? Restate the question so the examiner knows that we know what it's about. Number 2, and say what the name of the film was. Number 2, what type of film it is, what it is about, when you saw it, why you liked it, and a conclusion. 6 things to talk about. You can stop the video, you can pause the video, get your answer ready, and come back. Stop the video now. Okay, so now you're back. Did you talk about 6 things? Did you answer in the past tense? When it got to this bit, did you talk about present tense? When you did this bit, did you talk about present tense? When you did this, did you talk about past tense? And why you liked it, did you use past tense? And for your conclusion, did you use past tense? If you did, great. Did you cover every aspect? That's great. If you did, and you took 1 minute, up to 1 minute to plan, and then you timed yourself talking for almost 2 minutes and you did everything like we said, your score will be good. Great. A lot of these questions seem to be very, very similar. There's a reason for that. Practice, practice, practice makes perfect, and it gets us using the correct vocabulary. Okay, this time the question is a little bit different. Describe a film that you did not like. You should say what type of film it is, what it is about, when you saw it, and say why you didn't like it. Now this question seems to be very similar to the last one, but it's talking about a film you did not like. Right. So some of the adjectives you're going to use are not going to be the same as the last one. Tenses. Past tense. Present tense. Present tense. Past tense. Past tense. Conclusion will be past tense. How many things to talk about? Restate the question. Name the film. What type it is. What is it about? When you saw it. Why didn't you like it? Conclusion. 6 things to talk about. Right. Pause the video. Get your answer. And 1 minute to prepare, 2 minutes to talk. When you've done that, come back. Pause the video now. Okay, so how did you do? Did you talk about 6 things? Did you use the correct tenses? Did it take you no longer than 2 minutes to talk about it? Did you plan your talk? If you did all that, your score will be good. Now, we're going to talk about a person. Remember our statement earlier that a lot of things in IELTS in Part 2 particularly are to describe people. So, this time we're going to be talking about an actor or an actress. Describe an actor or actress that you like. By the way, we can talk about an actor as a male or an actor as a female. It doesn't really matter. But if we talk about an actress, that is a female. Okay. Describe an actor or actress that you like. You should talk about his or her appearance, what types of films he or she has appeared in, when you last saw him or her in the cinema or on TV maybe, and say why you like him or her. This is a slightly different question because this is talking about people. Try to think about vocabulary about people. So, tenses, analyze. Like, present tense. Appearance, present tense of course. What types of film has appeared in? Past tense. When you last saw? Past tense. Why you like? Present tense. These are all little tricks, little traps, aren't they? Okay, how many things to talk about? Introduction, restate the question, and the name, the actor or actress. His or her appearance. What types of films? When you last saw this person. Why you like this person. Conclusion. Wrap up. Right, so you can pause the video now. Do that and come back. Pause now. Okay, so you're back. You talked about 6 things. You used the right tenses. You planned for 1 minute. And you spoke for almost 2 minutes. Then, congratulations. You will do well. Few abstract discussions to practice Part 3 skills. This has got nothing to do with movies or films. Just the type of things that the examiner might ask you after you've done Part 2. Sometimes Part 3 is connected with the same theme as Part 2, but not always. Think how you would answer these questions. Do you think it's important to know about other cultures? Just remember to realize that there's another hidden question that the examiner might ask, that is, why? Don't wait for the examiner to say that. Make sure that you give the full answer. So, you can have a look at these, and we'll stop the video after we've gone through a look at these. See how well you answer them yourself. and then come back. Here are the questions. Do you think it's important to know about other cultures? How can we benefit from learning about other cultures? What do you think is the best way to learn about another culture? Do you think that learning foreign languages can help us to understand foreign cultures? What does it mean to be polite in your culture? What is considered rude in your culture? Now, to answer these questions is probably going to take you a little while. So, pause the video so you can see the questions and practice answering them. Remember to give full explanations. Because, so, therefore, as a result. Pause the video now. Okay, now you're back. How do you think you did? Did you give full answers with connectors? Remember the lesson on connectors? And perhaps reasons or results? If you did, you would do well. So what did we achieve in this lesson? Did we discover how to talk about different styles of films? Yes. Did we build our vocabulary talking about opinions on different film types? Yes, we did. And we had to combine that in some way with our lesson on opinions. Did we do some Part 2 style exercises to practice our skills? We did quite a few, didn't we? And did we discuss some Part 3 style questions to hopefully improve our fluency and perhaps put a few more entries in our vocabulary book? Yes, we did. Well done. So that's all for this lesson today. Our next lesson will focus again on IELTS Part 2 Speaking and will be about an event. We focus a lot on Part 2 because this is the part where most people need a lot of confidence to be able to do it well. And it's the part that most definitely is the focus of the examiner's attention in a big way. So an event, we're going to be talking about an event. An event can be a party, a celebration, such as a wedding, maybe it's a festival, something like that. So that's what we'll be focusing on in our next lesson. But for now, here's a little quiz, just to make sure we understood what was going on in this lesson. Don't forget you can replay these lessons if you're not sure about something. Here we go. A film that deals with the life of a famous person in the past is fiction, historical, or a cartoon. Process of elimination. If it's about a famous person, it's not fictional, because the person really did exist. Fiction means not true. Cartoon? Not likely. Not likely. Historical is the only one that's left, and does it fit? Historical is about history. So that's it. If we say a film was superb, it means it was terrible, it was scary, or it was really good. Superb. Superb. Looks a little bit like super, doesn't it? So if something was superb, it was really good. Well done. Special effects in a film are the people who act in the film, events that happen in the film, such as explosion, space travel, or the scenery in the background. Well, special effects makes me think about things that are probably not really there. The people who act in the film, well, they're really there, so it's probably not that. The scenery in the background, while that could be digitally manipulated, it's probably not what a real special effect is. So that leaves only the events that happen in the film, such as explosions, space travel, car crashes, things like that. So I think it's number 2, events that happen in the film. Right, we have now come to the end of Lesson 8. We are approaching the halfway mark. Your vocabulary and your fluency, hopefully, is improving as we go along. So keep watching, keep studying, don't lose interest. I know, as a long-term IELTS instructor, that IELTS can get boring at times. But think of the end result. If you score well, you're going to enter that foreign university, or you're going to get a better job, or you're going to be able to migrate to another country. So, although it's boring, keep going. You're doing well so far. So bye for now. See you in the next lesson. Such progress we're making. We're now at lesson number 9. We're almost halfway through this course, the IELTS Speaking course. Today is lesson number 9, and we're going to concentrate once again on the part 2, but a lot of things that you'll find in this lesson are going to be very relevant to all parts of the speaking test. This time, in this lesson also, towards the end of the lesson, we're going to have a look overall at the 3 parts that are going to be used in the IELTS speaking test and discuss how they should work and even practice them. Okay, so let's go. Today we're going to talk about an event. An event could be a wedding, a football game, lots of things. So let's have a look. Let's go. So, what are the lesson goals for today? We're going to decide what could be considered as an event, sentence structuring to describe what happens at an event, vocabulary building by using adjectives that describe events, adding qualifying adverbs to our adjectives to make our descriptions even more interesting, point scorer, practice our fluency by talking about 2 events that we have attended, one good, one bad, and practice some typical Part 2 speaking questions on the topic of events. I also said that we're going to practice all parts of the speaking test too, so that's going to be part of this lesson as well. Let's move along. Events. We can see a lot of pictures here. Take a look and decide what you think these pictures represent. We can see here a whole lot of vocabulary, time for vocabulary book, and we need to think which is which. Let's start off by asking, which picture is a birthday party? Well, we have to look around at the evidence. What sort of things generally happen at a birthday party? Cakes, funny hats, happiness. So, I would say there's a pretty fair chance that that one, the people with the blue, red and silvery hats, is a birthday party. Looking around at the evidence in the pictures again, which one do you think might be a wedding? Well, we can see the people dressed up in a very formal way in this picture. So that is undoubtedly a wedding. At a concert, we're going to see singers or performers playing and singing music. which one might be a concert. I can see a woman with a microphone, and she seems to be singing in front of an audience. Yes, that would be a concert. Oh, and a football championship. Of course, someone playing football would have to be it. A music festival. There we can see a poster advertising a music festival. What about a carnival? Yeah, carnival. People dress up. It's an outside event, walking in the street. A class reunion. Well, look at that. They all look pretty old. A class reunion of 1958, which means those people all were in a class, the same class in 1958. So they get back together, so that's a class reunion. And last but not least, there is the arrow that tells us about the concert. How did you do? Did you get them right? Good. All right, moving right along now. Look at that. Isn't that amazing? Lots of little arrows going everywhere. What we did have to do here was match the columns to form complete sentences. They've already been done for you. Aren't you lucky? We danced all night. I got to know lots of people. We toasted to our health. Hey, there's a very funny word in English. Toast. Toast generally means like bread, which we cook even more. We burn it a little bit, yeah. But it also means to say cheers, good luck with a drink. So to toast somebody doesn't mean to burn them. It means to wish them good luck by offering a drink. We attended all the different matches. Matches is also another funny word in English. Matches are little pieces of wood that can make fire. But a match is also when two teams, sporting teams, meet and have a competition. We attended or went to all the different matches or games. I caught up with some old friends. To catch up with somebody means to meet them, meet this person after some time. Maybe we haven't seen these people for some time, so we will catch up with old friends. We enjoyed watching the fireworks display. Fireworks. Boom. Fireworks display. We gave her our best wishes. All right, so let's see. What sort of events would the people who say these things be at, do you think? We danced all night. Well, it could be a wedding, couldn't it? Because people dance at weddings. I got to know lots of people. Well, it could be a wedding. It could be a class reunion, maybe. It could be a festival, a carnival. We toasted to our health. Well, we can think there could be plenty. We attended all the different matches. This is probably a sporting event. I caught up with old friends. That's probably a class reunion. Probably. Not necessarily, but most likely. We enjoyed watching the fireworks display. Well, this could be at a festival or a carnival, something like that. We gave her our best wishes. this is probably a birthday party. Probably. Doesn't need to be absolutely. We could give our best wishes to people at lots of events, couldn't we? Alright, so let's have a look at some adjectives for describing events. We can talk about various events, but we need to add some adjectives to say whether it was good or bad. Time for your vocabulary book. Have a look at these adjectives, and put them in the correct category, whether they're positive or negative. No good, right? You can stop the video here, pause the video, and decide where they go. And then we can come back and check. Pause the video now. Okay, so you're back. What do you think about boring? Where would you think boring is positive or negative? Yeah, boring is negative. Disappointing. Didn't come up to my expectations, what I was hoping for. If something's disappointing, well, it means it's negative. Dull. Dull is pretty much like boring, isn't it? So that's negative. Yeah. Enjoyable. Enjoyable. Enjoy. I like it. So enjoyable would most definitely be positive. Entertaining. If something's entertaining, it keeps me interested. So something that was entertaining certainly would be something positive. Exciting. Exciting. That has to be positive. Fantastic. Has to be positive. Fun. Well, if something's fun, of course it's positive. We like it. Tedious. Here's a new word, probably in English. Tedious means something makes me very tired. The professor's lecture was tedious. That's negative. That's negative. Terrible. Terrible. Well, that's definitely negative. Tiring. Tiring is the same as tedious. Tedious is a pretty fancy word, isn't it? Unenjoyable. That's negative. Most adjectives in English that begin with un or in mean the opposite of what the rest of the word means. Enjoy. Not enjoyable. Not able to be enjoyed. Well, that's a negative. This is a way to have a look at this if you've got un or in or non in front of a word. It generally changes the meaning to the opposite. That's one way to work out some words in English. Okay, so now we've decided where these go, whether they're good or bad things. Here's an exercise for you to think about. And to do, of course. Think about 2 events that you have attended. One was a positive experience, and the other one was a negative experience. And make up 1 or 2 sentences about each, like in the example we can put here below. You can make your descriptions much more natural and interesting by using qualifying adverbs. Adverbs which qualify adjectives are things like a bit, a little, slightly, quite, fairly, very, really, extremely. Some of these qualifying adverbs will be very important when we move on to writing, and especially talking about graphs. But anyway, let's have a look. As an example, I found the party extremely enjoyable. So what we've done now is we have taken an event, a party, and we have described it as enjoyable. But we've added a qualifier to enjoyable. Extremely enjoyable. So therefore, the examiner will say, aha, my candidate understands how to use qualifying adverbs with his or her adjectives. Big score. On the other hand, the wedding was a bit dull, to be honest. The event was a wedding, it was dull, but not a complete disaster. It was a bit dull, to be honest. Okay, your turn now. You can pause the video, think about 2 events you've been to, one which was positive or good, and one which was not good. And think of a sentence about them. Don't forget to use an adjective and qualify your adjectives with things like a bit, a little, slightly, quite, fairly, very, really, or extremely. Okay, you can stop the video now, and I'll see you in a few moments. Okay, so now you're back. Did you think of 2 events? One good, one bad? And did you use an adjective to describe this event? And did you qualify the adjective that you used to describe this event? If you did, your score in the speaking test would be pretty good. Yes, of course there's more to it than just that. However, you are making a very positive impression on the examiner. Right, now we're going to do a little bit of practice. We're going to use all of this stuff that we have talked about now, adjectives and qualifying adverbs, to talk about events. And we'll see some events here. Remember, 1 minute preparation, mind map, 2 minutes speaking, time it. Here we go. Describe a recent event. You should say when and where it was, who was involved, what happened at the event. Describe how you felt. Analyze. Tense. What tense? Was, happened, how you felt. All past tense. Good. How many things to talk about? 1 minute to prepare, 2 minutes to talk. Pause the video, do your preparation, do your talk, time it, and come back. Pause now. Thank you. So we're back. Did you talk in the past tense? Excellent. Did you talk about the right number of things? An opening. What the event was. When it happened. Where it happened. Who was involved. What sort of things happened at this event. How you felt. And close with a summary. 5, 6, 7, 8 points. If you did all that, good score. Right, next. Describe a traditional event in your country. You should say when the event is held, who attends the event, what people do during this event, and say why the event is important. I think by now we're certainly getting the idea about how to analyze the question. So, have a look. Tense? What tense? Yeah, present. How many things to talk about? Let's see. I can see. There's seven events. 7 things to talk about. All right. So pause the video. Try it. 2 minutes preparation time. Mind map. Talk for 2 minutes. Time it. Come back. Pause the video. Okay, so now you're back. I'm sure you did all the things that you have to answer this. Yes, it does get boring. However, practice makes perfect. Practice, practice, practice till you're sick of it. Right. Another one. Describe a sports event that you took part in or watched. You should say what the event was, who was competing, what you did during this competition, explain how you felt about this event. Analyze time. Tense? Got it. Past, isn't it? How many things to talk about? You should be starting to know this backwards by now. Okay. Pause the video. 1 minute preparation time. Mind map. Talk for up to 2 minutes. Pause the video and come back. Pause. Okay, so now you're back. How did you do? I know you did well, because you're getting very practiced at this now. Right. So let's have a look. We're almost at the end of this lesson, but I did promise to add some extra things to this lesson, and we will. But let's see how we went with the formal part of the lesson. Did we decide what could be considered an event? Yes, we did. Did we talk about sentence structuring to describe what happens at an event? Yeah. We danced all night, all that sort of stuff. Vocabulary building by using adjectives that describe events? Yes, we did that. Did we talk about adding qualifying adverbs to our adjectives to make our descriptions more interesting? Yes, we did. Did we do some fluency practice and talking about 2 events that we attended? 1 positive, 1 negative? Yes, we did, didn't we? And did we practice some typical Part 2 speaking questions on the topic of events? Oh, yes, we did, until we were bored with them. But very well practiced and very efficient at it. Excellent job. Okay, so that's all really for this lesson. Next time we're going to talk about a restaurant. But before we go, let's think about some things that we could chat about that would increase our vocabulary. Vocabulary book out, dictionary out. What are the advantages of living in the countryside? Very typical IELTS questions. What are the disadvantages of living in the countryside? What kinds of people live in the countryside? What do people living in the countryside like to do? How has life changed over time in the countryside? Do you think it is better to live in the countryside or in the city? Do you think that landmarks will make a city more famous? Why? I have to look up what landmarks are. What interesting things can we do in big cities? What's the difference between living in the city and in the countryside? Pause the video. Think about how you would answer these things. These are very typical Part 3. And then come back. Pause. Okay, so now you're back. How did you do? Were you able to use good adjectives? Maybe qualify your adjectives sometimes? Excellent. Time to move on a little bit. Quiz. Part 2 in the speaking test takes about 14 minutes, 1 hour, or 5 minutes. All this study for only 5 minutes. Part 2, we said only part 2, right? Wow. Which words are adverbs to describe how something happens? This cluster: colourful, tall, strong, handsome, walk, run, swim, jump, really, slightly, amazingly, fairly. Well, the first lot are adjectives, not adverbs. The second lot are all verbs, so we can eliminate them. The adverbs must be really, slightly, amazingly, and fairly. Alright, which is an event? A boxing match? Grass growing? Or cooking dinner? I would say a boxing match. It's a sporting thing, isn't it? Is probably the closest thing we'll see to an event. Almost done. Now let's have a look at what comprises a complete speaking test, taking approximately 14 to 15 minutes. So when you first arrive, of course, the examiner is going to want to see your ID, etc. And then the Part 1 speaking is going to follow things like this, and I want you to be able to answer all of these parts. How did you get here today? How could the traffic be improved in your city? What do you like to do in your spare time? Of course, you can pause the video and answer these questions. Pause and come back. Okay, so now you're back. You're over the Part 1. Just 3 pretty simple little questions that you should be able to answer. Part 2. Here is your card. Here is a pencil and some paper. Describe a remote, faraway place where you would like to visit. You should say where it is, how far it is from your living place, when and how would you go there, and explain why you would like to visit this place. You can pause the video. 1 minute for preparation, 2 minutes for talking, and come back to me. Pause. Okay, you're back. You should know how you answered this, because we've practiced it a lot. And then, to end off or round up the speaking test, Part 3 of speaking. Does tourism spoil the natural beauty of a place? And what could be done to lessen the environmental impact of tourism? Pause the video and come back to me. Pause now. Okay, so now you're back. How did you do with that? So if you've done all these correctly, we have done a complete speaking test. We've done Part 1. We've done Part 2. And we've done Part 3. Congratulations! Because that is the whole thing. That's how it works. It should have taken, realistically, about 14 or 15 minutes. If you've timed yourself, you will know whether it did take that long or whether it took longer. At this stage, if it takes longer, that doesn't matter. We're still practicing, but we have to get used to the idea of getting the 3 parts all done in about 14 to 15 minutes. So, that is the end of the lesson today. I hope you've done well. So I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next lesson, when we will then be at the halfway mark. By the time we get to the end, after 20 lessons, we will be so well practiced that this will all come to us as second nature. We won't have to think much about it. Practice makes perfect. Practice, practice, practice. See you in the next lesson. Bye for now. Hi, it's Dr. Raven Connors here again. We're back here with another IELTS Speaking course lesson. This is lesson number 10. So by the time we've done this, my friends, you will be exactly halfway through this course. By the time you get to the end of the course, you will be so experienced at answering the types of questions you'll find in the IELTS speaking exam that you will have no troubles doing well in it. Okay, so our topic in this lesson is about restaurants, talking about restaurants. And this is one of the 20 most popular topics that come up in IELTS. So let's make a start on it. Let's see how we do. Right, so the goals of our lesson today. We're going to learn and use the vocabulary related to restaurants and dining out. So you'll need to have your vocabulary book at the ready. We're going to describe a variety of common food styles, and therefore these can also go into your vocabulary book. We're going to use vocabulary building by the use of qualifying adverbs. We've touched on this in another lesson, but we're going to practice it again in this one so that we really get used to the idea of saying bye-bye baby English, hello sophisticated English, and therefore scoring much better. We're going to distinguish between positive and negative vocabulary about dining or eating, and we're going to do some sentence construction via gap fill exercises. That means there's going to be missing words and we're going to decide which words go in, and we're going to practice some part 2 questions and answers. And I think from memory we're also going to do in this a little bit more pronunciation practice. Alright, let us make a start. So here we go. We see here some pictures of typical types of restaurants that we might find in any English-speaking situation, or in most countries actually. And we have to decide which is which. A fast food outlet, an upmarket restaurant, a pizzeria, a self-service restaurant, or a canteen. So have a look at the pictures and see if you can decide which ones belong to which names. Before we do that, let's have a little think about why they would be called this. A fast food outlet, an outlet just means anywhere where something is sold. So we could have a clothing outlet, a shoe outlet, but a fast food outlet. Fast food means it's ready quite quickly. Can you think of some examples? Yes, McDonald's, burger joints, things like that. Upmarket restaurant. What do we mean, upmarket? Upstairs at the market? No. Upmarket means classy, generally expensive. The surroundings are generally very comfortable and quite formal. A pizzeria, or pizzeria. This is where pizzas are made. A self-service restaurant is where you have to go to get your own food. The food is already prepared and put on a table somewhere in the centre of the restaurant. You take your plate, you go to that place, and you collect the food that you want, and you put it on your plate. You take it back to your table. And a canteen is the type of restaurant that we would normally see in a workplace, or perhaps in a university, where there's a whole lot of tables. It's not particularly luxurious. It's very practical. Okay, so what do you think? A fast food outlet, which one would that be? Yes, of course. That looks like a McDonald's or a burger type place or a Kentucky Fried Chicken, doesn't it? An upmarket restaurant where we've got good service, etc. Yes, that would be that one over there with the nice orange lighting. A pizzeria? Yes, of course, that's going to be where the little pizza man makes pizzas. A self-service restaurant where we serve ourselves? There it is. That's the one there. You can see the people collecting their own food. The last one is a canteen. It's the only one that's left, so we can't get it wrong now, can we? How did you do? Did you choose the right ones? Okay. Let's move along a little bit. Now, where do you prefer to eat out? Do you prefer fast food outlets, an upmarket restaurant, a pizzeria, a self-service canteen, a self-service restaurant, or a canteen? And why? Remember, these are the sorts of questions that could very well be in part 1 or part 3 of your speaking test. What sort of restaurant do you prefer to eat out at, and why? So think about choosing one and having an answer for why. But if you're going to answer the examiner's questions, you need to say, I prefer to eat out at an upmarket restaurant because the ambience is better and it makes me feel comfortable and I will get good service. Don't wait for the examiner to ask you why, unless that's part of his initial question. Okay. Oh, look at that. We see some things down here. Pictures of food and some faces. Oh, okay. Let's check it out. Describing some dishes. Isn't it funny, in English we use the word dishes to mean some type of food as well as the plate or the bowl in which it is served. So if someone says, tell me about a dish from your country, it doesn't mean they want to know about your bowl or your plate. They want to know about the type of food. Have a look at these adjectives and let's put them in the correct category. We've got positive and negative. So positive is good, negative is not so good. Have a look at these words. Now is the time for your vocabulary book so that you're building your vocabulary. Don't forget you don't need to know and remember all of this vocabulary, just the bits that you feel might be helpful for you. What about bland? Is it positive or negative? Bland food is like, it's okay. Delicious. Positive or negative? My mother's cooking is so delicious. Oh, I think that's a good one, isn't it? Bland, of course, is negative. Delicious is positive. Filling. Makes my stomach full and I feel like I don't need anything else. Filling. Well, I think pretty much that's positive. Fresh. So fresh food is always going to make us feel better, isn't it? So I guess that's positive. Light. This doesn't mean the electric light. This means that the food doesn't feel heavy in our stomach after we eat it. We can say a light breakfast. not much to eat for breakfast, right? Right. Mouth-watering. Hey, that's a fancy word for delicious. Oh, my mother's cooking is mouth-watering. Nutritious means it's full of vitamins. It's full of good things for our body. I guess that's positive usually. Pricey. Well, what's going to do with price? Or how much? Something that's pricey is very expensive. So there we see another word for expensive. Spicy. Well, this could be positive or it could be negative depending on your taste. What you like. Tasteless is the same as bland. Means it doesn't have much taste at all. Tasty. Tasty. Ah. That means it's delicious. It tastes very good. Unhealthy. Remember we said before in another lesson, un means not. Not healthy. Probably a lot of fast food is unhealthy. Wonderful. Oh yeah, wonderful. So we see the pictures down the bottom. Give us a little bit of an idea about some of these. What I want you to think about a restaurant that you have been to recently and give one or maybe two sentences about the food, like in the example we see here under here. And don't forget to make your descriptions more natural and interesting by using qualifying adverbs such as a bit, a little, slightly, quite, fairly, very, really, extremely. Here's the example. I found the dishes extremely tasty and light. The food was a bit bland, to be honest. So what have we done here? We've taken the word dishes and we've said they're tasty and they're light. But we've qualified the adjectives tasty and light by saying extremely. We could have said slightly, or we could have said fairly. It doesn't matter. The next one, the food was a bit bland, to be honest. So our subject is the food. We say the food is bland, but we expand on that even more and say it was a bit bland. So, you think about it. Think about two restaurants that you went to, that you've been to in the past, and describe your experience. We can pause the video now and come back when you're done. Pause now. Okay, so you're back. How did you do? Did you make a sentence about a positive situation that you had in a restaurant? Did you say some adjectives that made it very positive? And then did you add an adverb which qualified that adjective? What about the one where it was a negative situation? Did you talk about an adjective to describe it? And did you use an adverb to qualify that adjective? If you did, you're on your way to a good score. Okay. Let's talk about the service in a restaurant. Of course, some restaurants have got great service, and some have not so great service, and some have almost none at all. But let's have a look. What category would you say about the service in a restaurant? Which words are positive and which ones are negative? There will be here some certain entries into your vocabulary book. Efficient. If we said the service was efficient, is that good or is it bad? We could probably say it was very efficient. See how we're using qualifiers? Excellent. Is that good or bad? It's good. It's positive. Now, we might be able to qualify excellent, but it's a bit difficult. We could say really excellent. What about fast? The service was fast. They brought the food very quickly. Positive or negative? We could say the service was very fast. Friendly. Positive or negative? So we could say that the waiters or the waitresses were very friendly. Rather friendly. Really friendly. How about poor? The service was poor. Oh, that's negative. The service was really poor. The service was terribly poor. Slow. The service was rather slow. Terrible. The service was really terrible. Unfriendly. The waiter was really unfriendly. That's negative, I think. All right, let's move along. Oh, this restaurant looks like... I don't think it's a fast food restaurant. I think this is probably an upmarket or classy restaurant. It seems to me that it's in Paris, in France, overlooking the Eiffel Tower. Let's have a look now about completing these sentences, because we need to get them right. The words we have to put in are bare, book, crowded, huge, reasonable, and tiny. Have a look at these sentences and decide where you would put these words. It is a place. It has a seating capacity of about 300 people. The interior is very There's hardly any decoration at all. Decoration means beautiful things to make it look good. The prices are very much better value than most other restaurants in my town. The portions, or the sizes of the meals, were It was like we had a light snack rather than a full meal. Snack is a small meal. The restaurant is usually very It's difficult to find a free table. You have to a table in advance because the place gets very busy. Okay. You can pause the video here, work out what you think the answers are, and come back. Pause now. Okay, you're back. Let's see what we had to say about that. It is a huge place. Because huge means very big. It has a seating capacity of about 300 people. Means 300 people can sit in there. Seating capacity. Number 2. The interior is very there's hardly any decoration at all. So there's not much in there. So The interior or the inside is very bare. There's hardly any decoration at all. The prices are very much better value than most other restaurants in my town. So if we're going to choose from the words above, it would have to be reasonable. Reasonable. Good value for the money. The portions or the sizes of the meals were It was like we had a light snack rather than a full meal. Tiny is another word for small. The restaurant is usually very It's difficult to find a free table. So I think it means if it's difficult to find a free table, it means there's a lot of people there. Crowded means a lot of people, doesn't it? You have to a table in advance because the place gets very busy. We have to reserve a table. What's another word for reserve? Book. Book. You have to book a table in advance because the place gets very busy. Now there's 6 descriptions of restaurants, and I want you to think, are there any restaurants that you know, where you live, that might fit those descriptions? Something to think about. So now you'll be able to describe those restaurants to some friends who don't know about them. Alright, try to use vocabulary from this lesson if you can. And remember, we're going on to part 2 now, so you have 1 minute to make notes and 1 to 2 minutes for talking. It's preferable that you go close to 2 minutes. Let's have a look. You know what to do now. In part 2, you know what we have to do. Describe your favourite restaurant. You should say where it is, what kind of food they serve, how often you go there, and explain why it is your favourite restaurant. First action, analyse. Second action, think about what vocabulary you might need. And third action, when analysing, how many parts do you have to talk about? Okay, you can pause the video and prepare your answer and try to answer it in up to 2 minutes. Pause. Okay, now you're back. How did you do? Good. Did you speak in the present tense? Did you mention everything? Okay, well done. Describe a restaurant you know. You should say where the restaurant is, what type of food it serves, how often you go there, and explain why you would recommend this restaurant. You know what to do now. Yes, repetition, repetition, but are we getting good at this? Yes, pause the video. Okay, and now we're back again. Another practice. Describe a restaurant you visited recently. You should say what type of restaurant it was, where it was, what you ate, and explain whether or not you would recommend this restaurant. Analyze. What's the tense? Watch out. How many things do you have to talk about? Okay, pause the video, answer this question, and come back. Okay, you're back. I think you would have done well. So, the goals of this lesson were to learn and use vocabulary related to restaurants and dining out. So did we learn some vocabulary about that? Yes, we did. And another goal was describing a variety of common food styles. Did we do that? Yes, we did. We had to use vocabulary building by the use of qualifying adverbs. Remember, a little, a bit, thoroughly, etc. Did we do that? Yes, we did. Did we distinguish between positive and negative vocabulary about dining out? What was good about a restaurant? What was bad about it? Yes, we did. Did we do some sentence construction by filling the gaps in a sentence? Yes, we did. Did we practice Part 2 questions and answers about restaurants? Yes, we did about 3 of them. We're getting very good at this by now. That's great. Okay, here are some Part 3 type questions that you might have to think about. Is handwriting still important? What are the disadvantages of handwriting? Is it possible to improve school students' handwriting once they have established a style? Is being left-handed the cause of a problem? Are handwriting problems more common in boys? What is the future of handwriting? Do you think that handwriting expresses personality? A few questions there. Pause the video, see how well you can answer each of these questions. Don't forget the hidden question, why? Make sure you use full sentences and expand on your answers. Pause now. Okay, how did you do with that? I know we say that these videos are only about 30 minutes long. By the time you do all these exercises, they're much longer than that, aren't they? So you're getting lots of really good practice. That's great. Alright, so that's all for this lesson now, and our next lesson will also focus on IELTS Part 2 speaking, and the topic will be books. But before we go, let's have a little bit of pronunciation practice so that when we speak to our examiner, he will be able to understand us and what we're trying to say will be pretty clear. The examiner does not expect you to speak like a native speaker, but he does expect you to be able to express yourself reasonably well. Ready? She sells seashells by the seashore. This is all about practicing the s, sh sounds, right? She sells seashells by the seashore. Speed is not particularly important in doing these exercises, so don't try to rush it. She sells seashells by the seashore. I saw a kitten eating chicken in the kitchen. I saw a kitten eating chicken in the kitchen. I saw a kitten eating chicken in the kitchen. Don't forget, you can pause the video anytime you like and rewind it, of course. I have got a date at 7:45. I'll see you at the gate, so don't be late. I have got a date at 7:45. I'll see you at the gate, so don't be late. I have got a date at 7:45. I'll see you at the gate, so don't be late. To sum up this lesson now, we're going to have a look at the 3 parts. We're going to practice the 3 parts of the speaking test. It should take you approximately 14 minutes to do this. Okay, examiner's got your credentials, and we're sitting down, we're talking to each other. Tell me about your family. What are you going to say? Remember, rehearsed answers will lose you marks, so don't say, my family has 3 members, there is my mother and my father and me. That's all. No, we want to know about, the examiner wants to hear stuff like, oh, we're a happy family. There's 3 of us. There's my mum, and my mum works at a shop selling clothes. There's my dad. My dad is a public servant. He works for the Ministry of Finance. And there's me, and I'm a student. But we have a happy family, and we live pretty close by to here. Oh, right. Are families important in today's society? Remember, you have to say why, or Oh yes, I think families are very important because they are the backbone of the nation. Without families, blah, blah, blah. Okay, go on. Now, part 2. Describe a member of your family you admire. Why do you admire this person? What has this person done in the past that impressed you? What do you think are this person's plans for the future? You know what to do with this. 1 minute to prepare, 2 minutes to talk. Then on to part 3. Is the role of the family less important now than what it was in the past? What influences have altered the relationships within families? What traditional roles need to be maintained in modern families? And how can they be maintained? Okay, do these few little exercises, and I will see you in the next lesson. We are now halfway. Good job.